Most people think success stories start with talent. They imagine some kid born brilliant, destined for greatness, walking a straight path from childhood genius to billionaire empire. But that's not how it happened for Bill Gates. His story isn't about being the smartest person in the room. It's about obsession, timing, and refusing to quit when everyone else would have walked away. Let's go back to the beginning, not the polished version you see in documentaries. The real beginning. William Henry Gates III was born in Seattle, Washington in 1955. His father was a successful lawyer. His mother served on corporate boards. They were upper middle class, comfortable, stable. Bill wasn't struggling to survive. He wasn't fighting poverty or escaping hardship. He had advantages, and that matters. But advantages don't build empires. What you do with them does. As a kid, Bill was restless, not hyperactive. Restless in his mind. He'd read encyclopedias for fun. He'd challenge teachers when they got facts wrong. He wasn't trying to be difficult. He was curious, relentlessly curious, and bored with anything that moved too slowly. His parents noticed this early. They didn't suppress it. They channeled it. At 13, his parents enrolled him at Lakeside School, a private prep school in Seattle. This decision changed everything, not because Lakeside was prestigious, because Lakeside had something most schools in 1968 didn't have: a computer. Now, understand what a computer meant back then. This wasn't a laptop. This wasn't something you carried in your backpack. This was a teletype machine connected by phone line to a mainframe computer downtown. Using it cost money, real money. Every second of computer time was billed. Most students touched it once or twice and moved on. Bill Gates couldn't stop. He started spending every free moment in the computer lab. He'd skip lunch. He'd stay after school. He taught himself programming languages. He'd write code, test it, break it, fix it, again and again. His friend Paul Allen did the same. The two of them became obsessed, not with computers as machines, but with what those machines could do, with what they could make those machines do. Here's the first lesson: obsession beats talent. Bill wasn't the only smart kid at Lakeside. He wasn't the only one with access to that computer, but he was the one who couldn't let it go. He was the one who saw potential where others saw a glorified calculator. By the time he was in high school, Bill and Paul were already getting hired for programming jobs. A local company paid them to find bugs in software. Another company hired them to write a payroll program. They weren't just students anymore. They were professionals, teenagers making money by solving problems with code. But then something happened that reveals who Bill Gates really was. The company providing computer time to Lakeside discovered that Bill and his friends had been hacking the system to get free computer time. They'd exploited bugs in the operating system to extend their sessions without paying. The company banned them. Most kids would have panicked, would have apologized and moved on. Bill did something different. He and his friends went to the company and made a deal. They offered to find and document every security flaw in the system in exchange for unlimited free computer time. The company agreed. Bill turned a punishment into an opportunity. That's not luck. That's mindset. By the time Bill graduated high school, he'd already done something most adults never do. He'd identified what he loved, gotten exceptionally good at it, and started earning money from it. But he didn't skip college. He went to Harvard. Here's where the story gets interesting. Harvard was supposed to be the pinnacle, the dream. Get into Harvard, graduate from Harvard, become something respectable. Lawyer, doctor, professor. Bill's parents expected him to follow that path. Society expected it. Bill showed up, enrolled, and almost immediately realized he didn't care. He didn't hate Harvard. He just couldn't focus on it. While other students studied for exams and wrote papers, Bill spent nights in the computer lab. He'd disappear for days, writing code, testing ideas, sleeping under desks. His grades didn't matter to him. Credentials didn't matter. What mattered was the work. Paul Allen, his friend from Lakeside, had moved to Boston and was working for Honeywell. The two of them stayed close. They talked constantly about computers, about software, about where the industry was heading. And then, in December 1974, everything changed. Paul walked into a convenience store and saw the cover of Popular Electronics magazine. On the front was a photo of a small computer called the Altair 80-800. It was being marketed as the first personal computer regular people could buy and assemble at home. Paul bought the magazine, ran to Harvard, and showed it to Bill. They both saw the same thing immediately. This was it. The moment they'd been waiting for. Personal computers were about to explode. But here's the problem. The Altair had hardware. It didn't have software. It couldn't do anything useful without programming. And nobody had written a programming language for it yet. Most people would have thought, interesting. Someone will figure that out. Bill and Paul thought, we need to be the ones who figure that out, right now. They contacted MITS, the company making the Altair, and told them they'd written a version of BASIC, a programming language that would run on the Altair. This was a lie. They hadn't written anything yet. They didn't even have an Altair to test on, but they knew they could do it. And they knew if they waited, someone else would beat them to it. MITS said yes. They wanted to see it. Bill and Paul had weeks to deliver something that didn't exist. What happened next was pure obsession. Bill essentially stopped going to classes. He and Paul worked nonstop, writing code on Harvard's computers, simulating what the Altair's processor would do because they didn't have the actual machine. They coded through the night. They tested. They debugged. They rewrote. When Paul finally flew to MITS headquarters in Albuquerque to demonstrate the software, he'd never actually run it on a real Altair. He loaded the code, held his breath, and watched. It worked. Perfectly. That moment, that risk, that refusal to wait for permission or certainty, that's what separated Bill Gates from everyone else who saw that magazine cover. He didn't just have an idea, he executed. MITS bought the software. Bill and Paul formed a partnership. And in 1975, they officially founded Microsoft. Bill was 19 years old. He was still technically a Harvard student, but he knew what he had to do. He dropped out. This decision haunts people. Everyone fixates on the fact that Bill Gates dropped out of Harvard and became a billionaire, like dropping out is some magical shortcut to success. That's the wrong lesson. Bill didn't drop out because he gave up. He dropped out because staying would have been giving up. Staying would have meant choosing safety over potential. He dropped out to chase something bigger than a degree, something he couldn't stop thinking about. The early years of Microsoft were brutal. Bill and Paul moved to Albuquerque to be near MITS. They rented a cheap apartment. They worked constantly. Bill was the visionary, the relentless negotiator, the one who pushed for more. Paul was the technical genius, the architect. Together they built software, sold it, and started growing. But here's what most people miss. Bill wasn't just a programmer, he was a businessman. From the very beginning, he understood that software was the future, not hardware, not the machines themselves. The code, the instructions, the invisible layer that made computers useful. In the late 1970s, most tech companies were focused on building bigger, better machines. IBM, Apple, Commodore, they cared about the physical product. Bill saw something different. He saw that software could be copied, distributed, licensed. One piece of software could run on thousands of machines. That scalability, that leverage, was where the real power lived. In 1980, IBM came calling. They were building a personal computer and needed an operating system. Bill didn't have one to sell them, but he didn't let that stop him. He bought an existing operating system called QDOS from another company for $50,000, modified it, and licensed it to IBM as MS-DOS. Read that again. He didn't invent it. He bought it cheap, improved it, and licensed it. That deal, that single decision, became the foundation of Microsoft's dominance. IBM's PC became the standard. And every PC needed MS-DOS. Microsoft made money on every single machine. This is the second lesson. Timing and execution beat perfection. Bill didn't wait until he had the perfect product. He found a solution, moved fast, and locked in the deal before anyone else could. Throughout the 1980s, Microsoft grew explosively. They released Windows, a graphical operating system that made computers easier to use. They expanded into applications like Word and Excel. Bill ran the company with intense focus. He wasn't a relaxed, easygoing boss. He was demanding. He challenged people. He pushed for excellence. If your code was sloppy, he'd tell you. If your idea was weak, he'd tear it apart. Some people hated working for him. Others thrived. But here's what's important. Bill wasn't cruel for the sake of it. He demanded excellence because he believed in what they were building. He saw the potential for personal computers to change the world, to put power and information in everyone's hands. That vision drove him. That's what made him work 100-hour weeks. That's what made him